Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, we need to look at a new Clefable card. Now, a quick apology from me at the beginning of this video. I should have done this yesterday. But the problem is, we had Melmetal GX revealed, we had Malamar revealed, and we got word of Detective Pikachu getting some... well, its own little expansion in the Pokemon trading card game. So as much as I wanted to do this video yesterday, it was a free video day and I still didn't get round to doing this. That should tell you quite a lot about how busy yesterday was in the Pokemon trading card game. But the good news is today I've got some time to tell you all about Clefable. So let's jump in, shall we? Our translation today does come from the lovely David Hochmann, and that's a phrase you should be getting used to by now. Now, it's a fairy Pokemon, which means you're hitting weakness against stuff like Rayquaza, but it's not the best weakness to hit. It means you are weak to metal, and having 110 HP is not good, because that means you'll be one-hit KO'd by Duskmane the Crozma, the attack which doesn't usually get one-hit KOs, which is bad. It also means a Registeel can get up to KOing you fairly easily. And I should mention 120 HP, but you are resistant to darkness, so you actually will survive a hit from Gardevoir GX. Yay! But not Buzzwole. Retreat cost of 1 is low, which we like. And Fairy's got a few extra things at the moment. Stuff like Mina to accelerate energy. It's not the best typing at the moment, to be honest. But you know what? It's got an attack. And I like this attack. It'd be weird if it had no attack. We've had Dittos in the past that have just had an ability. But it'd be weird if it was a blank card. That would be strange. Anyway, what are we doing here? In fact, Ditto Prism Star, which came out really recently, just had an ability. Anyway, the attack. According to David, it's slightly complicated. It does 10 damage, plus 30 damage for each Pokemon you have in play, with any fairy energy attached. So essentially, if you've got a full bench of 5 Pokemon, and you've got a fairy energy on Clefable, and you've got a fairy energy on all of your bench Pokemon, you are doing 190 damage. Now, this probably won't surprise you, ladies and gentlemen. 190 damage is a lot. Already, you're getting a straight one-hit KO on something like Buzzwole GX. Then you had a choice band to go up to 220, and something like a Zoroark is going down. And yeah, stuff like Gardevoir's sitting there being like, ha ha, I've got 230, you're not getting a one-hit KO. Greninja might say a similar thing, but who cares? Because Shrine of Punishment's a thing. So you just use Shrine of Punishment here, and you're off and rolling, because it does 10 damage to EXs and GXs between turns. So you can get up to really big numbers here. And we do need to say very clearly, as we read this card, we can see one fairy energy symbol in the text. What that means in a nutshell is this. You do have to have fairy energy attached, but it does not need to be attached to a fairy Pokemon. Any Pokemon with fairy energy attached will add 30 damage. And while we're here, it doesn't actually have to be fairy energy. It can be rainbow energy. It can be super boost energy if attached to a stage 2. Remember, super boost energy is 4 of any energy when you've got 3 stage 2s on the field. But even if you don't, it's still any energy to a stage 2. Or counter energy, but only if you're behind on prizes. Or the unit energy, which involves fairy and also involves fighting and darkness. Any of those would count here. I mean, obviously it's going to be better in a fairy deck. Clearly it's going to be best in a fairy deck. But I'm just saying it doesn't have to be a fairy deck. So while we're here, we should probably have a gander at some ways to accelerate fairy energy. We've already mentioned one of them, it's Gardevoir GX. What I love about Gardevoir GX is that once during your turn, you may attach a fairy energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. I mean, look, that's not the only thing I love about Gardevoir. Gardevoir's great. But in this particular context, this is what I'm excited about. So, you put an energy on Gardevoir and then an energy on another Pokemon. But essentially, every Gardevoir you've got out gives you another Pokemon. So if you get 3 Gardevoir out in one turn, you can attach an energy to one, and then use the other 3 Gardevoir, and that's 4 energy in a single turn. And you can use this to essentially keep rolling along here. And remember how I mentioned Mina a minute ago? Well, here's the thing. Generally speaking, talking about Mina, a supporter card that accelerates 1 fairy energy to one of your Pokemon, in a video where we're talking about a single energy attacker is just a bit like, eh. But talking about Mina in a deck where you do an extra 30 damage, that means Mina is basically an extra energy attachment and a choice band, but one that can be used against any Pokemon. Also, I suppose maybe an Electro power, but for a fairy deck. And at that stage, Mina starts to look quite good. And between stuff like Gardevoir and Mina, you're going to be okay here. But let's not forget Naganadel. I adore Naganadel here. And look, right, Naganadel's great in a whole bunch of decks. Me turning around and saying, hey, Naganadel, is not exactly the most original thing I have ever said. But once during your turn, you can attach a basic energy from your discard to Naganadel. And that can be a fairy energy. So every Naganadel you've got on your bench basically guarantees it will always have a fairy energy, which guarantees that you're always doing an extra 30 damage. Now, and it's a lot to pull off with the stage 1s, etc. But hypothetically, if you just get 4 Naganadel on the bench, you're hitting a minimum 160 a turn. Because you will have an energy on your active Clefable. And side note, the translation we've got from David, and David's pretty good at this whole translation malarkey, does say 30 more damage for each Pokemon with fairy energy attached. That would include Clefable. And this does make sense because it's a colorless energy. So it's basically saying, look, Clefable can add the damage here just so long as you put a fairy energy on it. Because you can use this for colorless energy, but why would you? It kind of defeats the point. So if you can have 4 Naganadel out, and maybe one of your Poipoles prized, and maybe one of your Naganadels prized, it's not ideal. But certainly 2 or 3 is ideal. That's doable. And then you add in 1 or 2 Mina just to be sure. And unless you're getting a Clefable KO'd every turn, and it's got 110 HP, so you might. But unless you are, then you can sit there nicely and just attach to something else. And let's not forget, you could play something like Energy Switch here. An Energy Switch is brilliant because you can just move an energy from Naganadel to something else. So Energy Switch kind of becomes almost like a Mina here. And that's awesome. And don't forget, right, you can attack with Naganadel once you've got free energy on. If we head into the expanded format, you've got Aromatisse. And Aromatisse is great because it lets you move all of your fairy energy around. So 1 Aromatisse here, and you can just have kind of 2 Naganadel out. And then if your Naganedel's got an energy, you put it on there, but then move it around with Aromatisse. And this is good. It's a non-GX Pokemon. It attacks for a single energy. And if you've got a full bench of Pokemon with fairy energy attached, you're doing 190 base. That's good. That's really good. And bearing in mind, it's not there at the moment, but over in Japan, Rayquaza is the best deck in Expanded, and it's largely because of a couple of Prism Stars, Shaman Prism Star and Tapu Koko Prism Star, which we're going to be getting in Team Up. I'll pop links to those videos in the description. But Rayquaza is just about to get way better in Expanded. Well, this is good in Expanded, and you really don't need much in Expanded because, well, if you've got free energy on Pokemon here, you're doing 100 and that's enough to KO a Rayquaza. But really, with 2 energy and a choice band, that's an energy on your active and 1 energy on 1 bench Pokemon for choice band, you're doing 200 and KOing a Rayquaza. So that's pretty gosh darn good. This has a lot of potential. I really do think Aromatisse makes a huge difference here, but it works with Naganadel, and you've still got Mina, and it's a stage 1 Pokemon that attacks for 1 colorless energy, but it really has to be a fairy that can one-hit KO almost anything. And there's a whole bunch of Pokemon for which you don't need 6 energy on 6 different Pokemon to hit 190. If you're against something like a Granbull, 4 Pokemon, 4 energy, 130, done. Naganadel, I think, is a given. If you go into the expanded format with Aromatisse, you can just use stuff like Max Elixir and Xerneas here to get the energy out really quite easily. And then move it around for Aromatisse. I'm loving this. I'm giving it 4 Wassies, and I might be overly generous. This is one of those Pokemon, kind of like Granbull and kind of like the Gyarados I showed you the other day, which could end up being a really good, genuinely viable non-GX smashing deck, because it's a non-GX that can one-hit KO GXs, or it might just end up being a little bit too awkward, which is what I said about Granbull, and it's what I said about Gyarados, and now it's what I'm saying about Clefable. But I like it. I'm a fan. I would, however, like to know if you're a fan. And ladies and gentlemen, that's where the comment section is. So go nuts, be nice, let's get a nice little discussion going. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays. We're over 3,000 subs. I'm delighted, but I'm greedy, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like more. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.